Okay, out of the three board members, I need to volunteer to be a clerk this evening. Do I have anybody that will volunteer?
I volunteer.
Cindy? Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, then we need approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting, and we have a request from Mary.
Dick and board members, we would like to remove 9D, and that is the approval of the construction management contract. We have a delay on that. We were basically in agreement on the terms, but as our attorney yesterday was working on the final copy, there was a software glitch, and we couldn't get it printed out and couldn't get it to Hoffman in time for them to review it for this meeting. So essentially that would have, we would have had it for you, but at this point we assume that we need to move forward on an additional meeting this month to do one other thing, and that is we have some enrollment-driven staffing needs, and then we need to talk about filling some administrative positions that we have open as well and getting ready for the upcoming school year. And the August meeting is a little late for that. And just because of timing, we're not prepared at this time to move that forward. But we would put this on that agenda and should move forward very quickly. Okay. It would be a short meeting. We don't see it as taking a significant amount of time. So if we
I'll accept a motion then to approve the agenda with the amendment of removing item 9D.
Mr. President, I would so move the approval of the agenda with the amendment as stated.
Okay, Mr. Holland moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second, Mr. Bell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, item number 5, approval of the minutes from both the June 12th meeting, the regular session, the closed session that same date, and then the work session June 19th, and all of those minutes are in your packet.
Mr. President, so move.
Mr. Bell moves. Second?
I wasn't at the meeting.
Nor was I.
Oh.
Okay, I'll second
I will
that.
second it.
I'll second that motion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Correspondence. Cindy?
There are 3 pieces of correspondence. One is a letter from one of 3 study groups that is sponsored by the Institute for Sustainable Development and What We Need Here. And this group is thanking us and acknowledging the lead activity on our new proposed building here. So that's one. And the second one is from Middle School Lifesavers, thanking us for the use of the space for Relay for Life. The third is a thank you letter from Beth Parr for flowers.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cindy. Any comments? All right. Thank you. I'll read those into the record. Sandy, item 7, staff student recognition. Sandy Kovach has recognition of a staff member.
Thank you. It's always wonderful when we have the opportunity to recognize a staff member, and that when the state recognizes the hard work of our staff, it's also a special opportunity. And with us tonight is Shar Kruger, the Nutrition Services Manager for EP Rock Elementary, and she actually received 2 awards. One is the 2006-07 Louise Sublett Award for the state of Wisconsin, and the other is the Chapter 5 2006-07 Manager of the Year Award. And Chapter 5 is made up of the school districts in west central Wisconsin. And I asked Shar to come to the microphone and to kind of describe the program that she had put forth that helped her earn that award. Thank you, Shar.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. The Louise Sublett Award, I had a project for the award, and my project was to increase fruit and vegetable consumption of the students at EP Rock through education and providing a wide variety of new fruits and vegetables for students to try. In the spring of 2006, EP Rock was given a grant by the FDA to provide a fruit or vegetable snack to children every day at a time other than lunch. So that was part of the program. And to increase fruits and vegetable consumption, but along with having a variety of fruits and vegetables for them to encourage them to try new things, and having the snack and the attention given to fruits and vegetables, we also tracked the fruit and vegetable consumption also increased during lunch, which to me didn't make sense at first because I thought if they're already having a snack, they would maybe eat less at lunch, but the other was true. And so for the award I was able to use 5 examples of things that we did. One of them was classroom visits, which is really fun to go into the classroom and visit with students about nutrition. Another one was at our registration days in August. We had where students come in and go from table to table, getting their health form and all those things. And the last thing they do is wait to have their picture taken. And in years past, we've realized that sometimes that line gets kind of long. And so we had activities for them to do. We had a can game where you stretch a sock over and you stick your hand in and guess what the fruit or vegetable is. They like that one. And cut pictures out of magazines and made a collage of fruits and vegetables. We had a DVD going about information of fruits and vegetables, and we had a computer game that they could sit down and real short, true or false questions about fruits and vegetables. And we also had a taste test. I think we had sliced apples for them to try. Another one that we had was morning announcements. We started out, I just gave information to our principal, and when she did morning announcements, she would tell over the PA what the fruit or vegetable snack was that day, and then we had information about that fruit or vegetable. And after a few months of that, one of the classrooms, a third grade, Miss Derrick's class, third grade class, decided that they would take on that assignment. And she had students research the fruits and vegetables that we were going to have, and then they performed. They made either a poem or a song or jokes about that fruit or vegetable and performed that over the PA for morning announcements. So that was really fun. And in April of this year, we were featured on KARE 11 News, What's Cool in Our School, for our fruit and vegetable program, and the kids that sang those songs and things, so that was really fun too. We also had posters and decorations in the cafeteria and in the serving area. I made posters for grocery stores, County Market and Econo Foods, featuring a new fruit or vegetable that we were having for the week, and I did it once a week, with the idea that kids kind of forget what they've done at school sometimes, and this way if they were at the grocery store with their parents, they can say, jicama, I tried that at school and I liked it, can we buy some? To try and encourage families to try a variety of things. And we did, I have gotten emails of a family that decided to have their own taste test every week. When they went to the grocery store, the kids got to pick out something new to try at home. We also invited the mayor to come and have lunch with us during our National School Lunch Week and explained our fruits and vegetable programs to him. And other things like that. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right, Sandy, other comments?
I'm just very proud of what's happened at EP Rock. It really made an impact. When the program had to end, wasn't it at the end of the spring? I think the kids, the staff, the principals, they were just kind of like, they were missing something. They really had become accustomed to the fruits and vegetable program.
The program had to end?
I think it was due to funding.
Our grant money for the snack
Ran out. Yeah.
That makes me sad, because it sounds like it was just, first of all, awesome, and second of all, just really effective. So, thank you.
Thank you, Shar. Thank you for your service to the school district. Do you have a comment, Mary?
I do. Shar, just thinking about childhood obesity, and certainly emphasis on wellness, health and wellness, and really making an impact on those children's lives. You should be very, very proud of that, because certainly it's the direction that we need to help educate our children about the advantages of healthy eating and habits. And you've contributed to that for those children and families, too, it sounds like. So we're very proud of your efforts, too.
Mr. President, how much was the grant? How much did it cost?
I can't remember the total of the grant, but I think it was like about 35 or 40 cents a serving that we had to deal with, but that was for the fruit and the cups we served it in and the labor to prepare it, so it wasn't much, but it was good. We really enjoyed it.
Sure like to see if we can do something, maybe not to, maybe it's not with a snack, but if we can do something like that across all of our schools. It seems like it was a pretty good idea, given some of the situations we're facing right now with our youth.
Seems worth the effort to have, it seems worth the effort to see a proposal.
Yeah.
Where did the grant money come from?
FDA.
The USDA.
USDA?
Yeah, I'd like to see another plan. Maybe it's is a cost-effective way of doing it across all of our elementary schools.
The goal to increase the vegetable and fruit consumption among students is part of the student wellness implementation plan, and the Joan Allen, our coordinator, and the dietitian reported on the progress on that goal, and this was part of what they reported on.
But I mean, it seems like we take the best parts of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the fun. I mean, why not just take the best parts of this thing and roll it out?
Yeah.
Is that a step that we could possibly take to have some type of report come back? Obviously, it won't be ready for the start of the year, but is there something we could learn that came out of EP Rock to take district-wide?
With some cost estimates, maybe, and some, something that we could start to really look for a way to implement. I would support that.
And as we hire our new child nutrition coordinator, we can have that discussion.
Okay.
Anybody care to put that in a motion, or we just leave it as a recommendation to come back with a staff direction or staff recommendation?
Certainly you can, but you don't need to. We will move it forward.
Okay.
Just give us some time on that, because we do want to get the staff on board.
Okay.
Yeah, and a good comment, Brian. I had a grandson up at EP Rock, and even he was commenting on the program, and so it was successful. Got to the kids. All right, again, thank you, Shar. Okay, Sandy, moving to item number 8 on the agenda, reports, WKCE and MAP assessment results. And I think I'm going to
And board members, at your table is an updated PowerPoint, so you can see both. Now we have pictures, I guess, in your way a little bit, don't we? All right, 2006-07 WKCE and MAP test results. Most of us are aware that No Child Left Behind's main impact on schools is a requirement that all states develop and administer annual tests in reading and math for all students in every grade 3 through 8, and at least once in these subjects in grades 9 through 12. Wisconsin schools started these yearly tests in reading and math in fall 2005, meaning the most recent tests that were developed. And then previously, students had been tested only at grades 4, 8, and 10. The stated goal of No Child Left Behind is to have all students, meaning 100%, score at the highest 2 levels of achievement, proficient and advanced, on statewide tests by school year 2013 and 14. So again, they want 100% proficient and advanced by 2013-14. Between now and then, schools must take a specific series of steps toward meeting that goal. To report the progress of individual schools and districts, Toward that goal of 100% proficiency, No Child Left Behind uses a measure known as Adequate Yearly Progress, or AYP, you'll often hear. And each year, schools receive a report from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, just like the one you see above, showing their AYP rating status. The report includes information about attendance, graduation, test participation, and district and individual school scores on the state reading and math tests. For fall 2006, the criteria in Wisconsin for meeting AYP included that 67.5% of all students tested must be proficient or advanced in reading, 47.5% of all students tested must be proficient or advanced in math, 95% of all students enrolled in tested grade levels must participate in the state tests, elementary and middle school attendance rates must be at least 85%, and high school graduation rate must be at least 80%. And as you can see, in 04, 05, 05, 06, 06, 07, we have met all of AYP in each category. The AYP report also breaks out student scores into different subgroups, including race and ethnicity, students with disabilities, English language learners, and economically disadvantaged. In addition to each tested grade reaching proficiency, each subgroup of tested students must also demonstrate movement towards 100% proficiency rating. The 5 AYP criteria apply to all students as well as all subgroups of students. In the past, medium and small districts did not have enough in each of those subgroups, which was 40, a subgroup of 40, for the 5 criteria to be applied to them. However, now with districts testing at every grade level, the number of students in each subgroup will be totaled at the elementary level, meaning grades 3 through 5, and at the middle level, grades 6 through 8, to determine whether each subgroup of students also meets the 5 criteria listed above. Schools will be identified for improvement when the same subgroup of students misses the same criteria for 2 consecutive years. State and federal law require the annual review of school performance to determine if student academic achievement and progress is adequate. The review includes a comparison of actual achievement levels of students in reading and mathematics and Wisconsin's annual measurable objectives in those areas. The annual measurable objectives increase over time. It's important to understand that it will be very difficult for some children to meet the academic expectation of proficient or advanced on a state test. As a result, all districts and schools can anticipate not making the AYP requirement at some point between now and 2014. And this slide is showing you, like I said, the criteria for this year and last was that 67.5% of all the students tested must be proficient or advanced in reading, and 47.5% must be proficient or advanced in math. And there are differences there because the 2 tests were developed differently and the proficiency levels were set differently. And so that's why you see differences between those expectations between reading and math. Please note then in 2007-08, next year, that level increases. So we are going to need, in order to be satisfactory, we're going to need to have 74% of our students tested be proficient or advanced in reading and 58% of our students be proficient or advanced in math. So you can see as you look up the ladder to 2013-14 how difficult that will become when we start talking about all students. When we start looking at our WKCE results, we will know in both reading and math, in every grade level, that we are above the state average. There's math. And then we only have 2 years of trend data because you remember that this new test just started in fall of 2005. But as we look at the trend data for over those 2 years, reading, I would use the phrase stable. Just little variations, some a little grade levels a little higher, some a little lower, but pretty stable. And we know from last year's presentation last spring that we are just started our new literacy plan, and we anticipate some changes occurring over time. Mathematics, you can see it held its own in grade 3, but there's some nice gains that are starting to be made in 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm attributing some of that to the fact that we do have our everyday math going pretty strong at the elementary now with its 3rd year of implementation, and also some new math occurring at the middle level as well. Last year, we began a process of comparing Hudson School District with other high-performing schools within the state. And I've pulled out some of those same pieces, stayed with the same districts, but you can see grade 3 reading. We're looking at the advanced and proficient column, and that's kind of where we focused before, and now we're through our SMART goal process and our other school improvement process are really trying to stretch and really look at that advanced column and be competitive with the number of students scoring in that upper level. There's grade 3 reading, and then you can also see down at the bottom too where the state average is, and again, we're always quite a bit ahead of the state, but we want to make sure that we're benchmarked against some other districts that will really stretch us. Grade 10 reading. And then you'll be able to start seeing now, like the math, where I said we're starting to make some nice gains. Look at the comparison here now with advanced and proficient and advanced. We're starting to close in with a few of those high performers. And then grade 8. Again, we're pretty much right in there with advanced, and about half of those districts we're getting close with the advanced column as well, but some big variations in that area. The other large-scale assessment that we use in our schools is NWA's Measures of Academic Progress, or MAP tests. Reading and math tests have been administered in grades 3 through 9 in both the fall and spring, and then in second grade only in the spring for the past 3 years. The MAP test measures student progress or growth in school. Many of you probably at home in the past or currently may have a chart at your home where you mark your child's height at certain times. You know, maybe on their birthday each year you mark that spot. That is a growth chart, and that's similar to what the MAP test does. It shows growth from one year to the next. It measures student growth, though, in reading, language usage, and math skills. One of the pieces that we really like about this test is the quick turnaround. It's done on the computer, and within 24 hours, teachers have the results, and they can begin to use it to influence their instruction. Now, what we did with this test, putting this chart together, is you are looking at it by cohort. So if you're looking, for example, at the class of 2014, that's the 5th grade, you can see then when they first took the test in spring of '05, then it's compared to the national norm there with the burgundy. Then when they took it in spring of '06, compared to the national norm. And then when they took it in spring '07. There isn't another national norm, so there's just 2 pieces there that we can look at. But what we do want to see, which you can see in every grade level again, is sort of that step piece. It would be kind of like that growth chart that you'd have at home for height. We want to see that each year our students are increasing, and that's what we are seeing. This is reading, and then the next one is mathematics. And then finally, I'd just like to make a few comments as we're just looking at tests. One would just remind our stakeholders that may be listening or may look at this in the future. It's just important for all of our stakeholders to understand that their child's day-to-day progress in the classroom is probably their best indicator of academic growth. That when we have these tests, that yes, they give us an indication of how we're doing both statewide and nationally, but if, as a parent, you would really want to look at that day-to-day classroom experience for true measures of academic growth. The WKCE, for example, was not designed to be an individually diagnostic test, and so we don't want to put too much weight on that. It really is to give us a picture as a district on how we're performing. And the other piece I want to just leave with you is it's also imperative as educators, board members, parents, and as community members that we expect our curriculum to offer more than what's tested, meaning the focus on reading and math. Reading and math, of course, are imperative, they're key, but Hudson wants well-rounded graduates that also have diverse opportunities in music, art, world languages, technology, and physical education. And we also want to make sure our students are prepared in the life skills of leadership, teamwork, creativity, and risk-taking. Thank you. And at the bottom, too, I put if some of our stakeholders want more information, they can always go to the DPI website, and all of this information as far as the WKCE is there.
Any questions, comments for Sandy?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Go ahead, Brian.
So Sandy, So this was built, the No Child Left Behind, that basically by 2014, every school in the country is going to fail. I'm not trying to be
Right.
I'm not trying to be smart about that. I mean, no kidding, there's no exception. So for that's every child that takes a test, maybe a special needs child, and maybe a
English
ESL.
language learner. Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
they expect every child to pass the test.
Correct.
It's the same test.
Be advanced or proficient. Mm-hmm.
And they're all taking the
100%.
same test?
There are some modifications that are allowed for some of our special needs, but just a certain percentage of them. And then ELL as well, as there's like a window, a yearly, a span of time where they're allowed to access the language.
Yeah. I guess I'm challenging, and maybe I shouldn't, that, that we're just assuming we're going to fail at a certain point. I kind of have the hard to swallow that we're not going to just figure out a way to, this is something that's we're living with right now. Why don't we just plan out a path for success? I guess that's a question and a statement together.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, I like the direction you're going in relationship to how do we succeed, how we help our kids succeed.
Yep.
Certainly, and that's very important to us. That's why we're on the road for our math reform and for literacy. The intent of the NCLB is really to help prepare all students and do a better job than we have done in the past. And certainly that's admirable. The problem is the implementation plan is very flawed, and it's under review right now. And as I understand, many of the legislators know that based on this plan, there is no research whatsoever any place that this can be done. And so it's under revision, and we're looking at trying to take this data to improve the learning of our students and use that and benchmark ourselves against higher performing districts and continue to raise the bar for ourselves. So that's our goal, which I think aligns with the direction you're going. And I guess our intent is not to say,
Kind of throw our arms up.
yeah, we're not throwing our arms up at all. We are raising the bar for ourselves. Our intent, and I'd ask Cindy to talk about this, is to inform you about the challenges so that if that does occur, and we expect it across the nation to occur for challenged students, as you just talked about, the ELL students and so forth. So we're just trying to set the stage so that you'll understand, and our community understands, too, the challenges that are current in the law, and hopefully there will be enough change in the law that the intent will match more the implementation plan.
I understand, but I guess until it gets changed, I'd like to find a way to succeed versus saying, well, at a certain point we're going to fail, and let's just, that being said, my second comment is just grade 10 reading.
Yes.
That's the one that was significantly below kind of all the benchmarks. So is there some comment on that, why that is, or what we're going to do to change that, in the next year or the year after?
Yeah.
And by the way, my philosophy on tests is I know that there's lots of other strengths in our curriculum
Yes.
and other things we should focus on. And I'm not reducing or mitigating that, but I'm just saying that the tests are the tests. That's the nature of what we have to do. And let's make sure we're the top school, one of the top schools in Wisconsin.
Yes.
So we're at 79%. So I'm just wondering what we're going to do.
And there's just two pieces I'd respond. One would be just to recognize, and I kind of started it when we had the one slide up just showing, you probably noticed that even at the state level it goes down at grade 10, and that's part of the design system of each test is designed separately. So that 10th grade test is definitely just at a different level than the others. It shows that the whole state is. But we will be meeting with high school staff, and it's not just, what we have to also remember is not just an English teacher issue, but we need to look at what kind of reading and writing is going across that curriculum, look at the questions, analyze those pieces a little bit more, and sit down and kind of decide what kind of plan of action.
I personally would like to see a plan a plan for, we're focused on continuous improvement, and let's look at this opportunity as an opportunity to move forward. And I personally like to see a plan on how, what we do in the high school to address that.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Cindy.
I guess I kind of wanted to address some of the comments that have been made, and especially with regard to the reading trend data, and I would also add the math trend data to that. And one of the things that you see when you start to look at trend data is that as we implement improved programs at the elementary level, we're going to see that there's, that from that point forward, you begin to see improvement. And I would fully expect that what we see as grade 10 right now is indicative of the remnants of those who didn't receive the new math programs, the new reading programs. So those results are sort of carryovers from prior to the improvement. So in order to make improvements in that group, we would have had to, rather than implement an elementary improvement program, a middle school improvement program, or a high school level improvement program, 10th grade being too early to do that. So what we as a district determined to do was to implement the improvements beginning in the elementary school. I think that's where we're seeing the gains in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade testing. So when we look at that 10th grade year, I think that what we're looking at is a residual from pre-implementation of new programming. So I think that's one way to think about that. And if it doesn't change next year, if we don't see that those two measures in our 10th grade students significantly improving over what we're seeing here, then I think that that would be the indicator that it's not residual, that there's something happening in 10th grade that we really need to pay attention to. But I think that we should give the trend time to get to the 10th grade before we were...
I guess the question would be how long we're doing these tests for, how long we've been doing the WKCE for.
In grades, in every grade 3 through 8 and 10, second year. Prior to that, it was just 4, 8, 10.
Go ahead,
Brian, we do have a plan in place, and we can bring that to the board and show you. Cindy just described the intent is really moving through the elementary. And then it has moved into the middle school as well now, and will eventually be moving up to the high school. So that's the plan, but we can give you more details about that if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it.
Okay.
High level.
Yep.
And I think what you're seeing here, though, is the students that are running just ahead of that wave.
Yep.
I think that we'll see something different in the next year's worth of testing. It's just the nature of trend data. And when you start to make changes in the middle of a time period. One thing that would be useful, I think, for us in looking at this kind of data is for us to be able to, to draw us a line and show us where we implemented a significant change.
Okay.
And to the extent that you can do that, that when a new reading program was implemented with the students before this line, not the students after this line, I think that will help us to know for sure what the impact of the new implementation is comparatively.
Just my final comment, then I'll clear the floor and let someone else comment, is, but I applaud the district and, Mary and the whole team here for, kind of taking the bold step and kind of measure us against other high performing districts. And sometimes you may not like what you see, but but it's great that we challenge ourselves. And, that's how we're going to continually improve our district. And so my hats are off that. That's how we're looking at this data. So I applaud that.
Thank you.
I love that we're not aspiring to be mediocre, not always comparing ourselves to the average, but looking at the cream of the performers. And I don't mind being at the bottom of the top. I mind being just a little above the middle.
Well, you might recall one of our goals as a district, and I think we stated right in our vision statement, is to be a top-performing district academically in the state of Wisconsin.
We will be sharing, or Sandy will be sharing this data when our staff returns in the fall. So that's at our opening session. We did that this last year, and she'll be doing that again, too. So starting off the year as we look at SMART goals and moving forward.
Well, no, I should say that differently. I do mind being at the bottom of the top. I just prefer it to being at the top of the middle. So,
We got you.
okay. I really want to be at the top of the top.
All right, other questions,
Yeah,
comments?
just a
Mr.
question
Holland?
about, Sandy, about, and I think I know the answer to this, but I assume that the SMART goals concept and that initiative is playing a part in this as well.
Right.
My assumption is, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, is that the SMART goals, our objectives and goals for that are greater and beyond
What's here?
what's here.
Yes. These are 2 data points that are
Yeah.
incorporated into those SMART goals.
Okay. Okay.
And again, elementary is very focused on the literacy piece. That's what's,
Right.
as Cindy mentioned, that's what's going to roll up. And then middle school is very focused on the math.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, in relationship to SMART goals and for the other board members, we will be bringing goals back to the board to show you in the fall after the schools work on those when our staff comes back. And then we plan to show results in the spring or summer, depending upon when those results are. We are moving away from using SMART goals on the WKCE. And the reason being is because the WKCE is not directly instructionally sensitive, which means you can teach in the classroom and be at a high level of performance, and your students can learn, but it might not show up here because it's really a trend instrument. It's not an instrument that shows you very reliable data in the way it's being used for NCLB implementation. That's one of the drawbacks of this. So we are, as you just said, using other levels of performance and assessments and trying to develop that system of our own with our own benchmarks.
Right.
Now, that takes a while, but we are on that path.
Great.
Okay, other comments? Okay, all right, thank you, Sandy. Let's move to item number 9, topics for action. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. And if you will turn to page 1617 of your packet. Okay, on page 16, you'll have the exact expenditure amount for approval. Am I right on that, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, and then you should have handed out to you this evening a new item as far as personnel with the staffing. So it is a consent agenda item, but we do need to put into the motion the exact expenditure dollar amount in the amount of $3,431,148.37.
Mr. Minnick, I move that the Director of Financial Services be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $3,431,148.37.
Okay, would you amend that to include the other items on the consent agenda?
Yes,
Okay, thank
as
you.
well as the other items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, Tim, proposed 2007-2008 school lunch prices. And again, if you take a look at your packet, that would be on page 23.
What we're proposing to do is essentially raise the current lunch price is approximately 3% across the board. The last overall price increase was in 2003, 2004. Of course, as we look over time, when you don't have any corresponding increases, you certainly do have corresponding operating costs each year. So we think this is a pretty conservative increase. It still keeps our prices comparative to neighboring districts amongst the lowest for lunch prices. One of the things that we've also faced is obviously fuel costs. So we have transporting costs and food surcharge, transportation and fuel surcharges. There's been a spike up in milk prices recently. We also, if you remember, previous meeting, we did have approval of a dietitian contract, and that's kind of in this whole theme of moving towards educating students to make those healthier choices to eat. So we're moving in that direction, but we do feel that to keep our food service program self-sufficient, that this increase would be reasonable.
I would just add for the board members, just to keep in mind, this is a self-funding program. Am I correct in that, Tim?
That's right.
Yeah.
I have another little calculation I'd like to add to the discussion, and that is that given 178 instruction days, a 5-cent increase is a total, if a person were to spend that 5 cents every instructional day, of $8.90 for the year per person. So
You are correct. It's about $1 a month increase.
it's just a minimal, really, overall impact on the entire cost.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the 2007-2008 school lunch price as reviewed by Tim Erickson.
Okay, we have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Cindy, second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. D has been removed. E, Rivercrest Design Development. Mary, you want to carry the conversation on that, Mary?
Can we go back to C?
C, sorry.
I will do that later.
Let's back up. I apologize.
No problem.
D, yes, has been eliminated. C has not. Contract for communication specialist.
It's
services.
remedial reading for you, buddy.
It is. Gonna lower our averages.
We just flunked NCLB.
We are now recommending to you a contract for communication specialist services. As you will remember, over the last 2 years, we have had 2 individuals who have provided services to us and left us at various times to go on to other positions. I would remind you that these are contracted services. This is not an employee. We're not asking you to hire an employee, but to approve contracted services. And in this case, we've used the same selection process we used for the last 2 times. We advertised a little more broadly this time and received about 15 applications to provide these services. After reviewing those applications and comparing them to our criteria and our district communication plan, we selected 3 candidates for interviews, and then Ed Lucas, Nancy Sweet, and I interviewed each of those candidates and looked at their work products and reviewed their credentials and their interview with our plan. And moving forward with that, Nancy Toll had done it in the past, but she happened to be teaching a class at the time we were interviewing, so was not able to join us. We unanimously selected Tracy Habishaline to provide these services for the district. We did not know Tracy as administrators or district-wide, the skills that she had in the area of communication. So this was something new to us. We were impressed with her skills, and they certainly best matched the goals and implementation of our district communication plan. Her ability to research, we'd seen some of that along the way, but what we had not seen was really her ability to turn complex topics into very understandable text. And that's something that we deal with all the time and need help with. So that's one of the criteria that we were looking for that we found in her skills. She demonstrated this certainly in her previous work. And then as part of the application process, she actually wrote some key points for one of our initiatives in literacy and the trip to New Zealand that was funded primarily through outside sources of some of our staff members and one parent, and right on target with those talking points with no conversations with us in relationship to that. So again, she was demonstrating those skills. Certainly, we value, and this came through in the interview significantly, her value of education, her knowledge in the area of child development, which certainly supports our work and is helpful, knowledge of the district and our community, and her strong work ethic. One of the primary difficulties we've had in the past, naturally, with people who have come in to provide communication specialist services for us has been the time that we have had and the resources we have had to devote to helping them learn about the district, about K-12 education, about our community, about the history of the district, where we are in various initiatives before they could write anything for us or help us in any way in communication. That's been a huge dilemma for us, very huge. And we have talked about it over and over again. How can we shorten up that time? So when we looked at candidates, one of the key criteria was, how soon, how much do we have to really get them up to speed? Certainly Tracy had this background knowledge that is very important in the role of communications person, and she demonstrated for us and certainly would be able to start much further ahead. She came out unanimously, certainly, to be the top person to provide these services. The fee, as you can see in this contract, we started at $80 an hour and paid that for Melissa Winter when she provided the services. And just for your information, we negotiated with her, and we were the lowest. That was the lowest fee they charged anyone. They charged all other clients higher than $80, which in the industry is not at the top at all in any way, shape, or form. And then Roberta Olson came in, and our contract with her was for $55 an hour, and this contract before you is for $50 an hour. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, but we certainly recommend Tracy Habishaline to provide these communication specialist services.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Any comments or questions from board members?
From my perspective as the chair of the communications committee, I think that the district has a lot to be gained by Tracy being in this position. I think that I was surprised. I know that she resigned from the board before she went through the interview process or anything like that, even I think before she had applied for it, I think. But she has just really, on the committees I've worked with her on, demonstrated many of the characteristics that we're looking for in a communications specialist for this district. And I can't see I have no reservation whatsoever in supporting this hire or this contract. And so I would like to move that the board approve this contract.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion or further discussion?
I just have a question regarding moving forward with this type of service. I mean, is the long-range plan to continue with what looks like to be a 30-hour-a-week on average contract service? Are we looking for, as a number of districts have hired this staff position permanently, is our intention to just, does this meet our needs, and is this going to meet our needs in the future, or have you thought about that or discussed that?
Well, certainly, we could use the services of a communication specialist on staff in the district full-time. When you think of, we're in the people business, and there is communication that needs to occur both internally and externally, and then compare that to the size of the district. We do a service to our employees and our community when we are communicating the things that are important to them, the things that they want to know about, and certainly we can expand what the person is going to do if we had a full-time person. We will have to pick and choose and prioritize to use them in a more restrictive way, and sometimes it may go up to 40 hours a week, as it did during a referendum time period in the past, but we will be prioritizing those things at the present time based on these services. So certainly it will help us, but it won't do everything that we would like to be able to do.
Okay.
And we have talked at length in the Communications Committee about the need for this kind of a permanent service to the district. And I think where we've kind of been at with that is that each person that's come to this position has really taught us a lot about what the district needs and what it doesn't need in communication services. And I think that before we would ask for a permanent position, we would want to have just a little bit more knowledge about what is going to serve us very best, so that when that position is written and requested, that it's not constantly under revision at that point. And I think that each person that's come to this position has been really informative to us about what works and what doesn't for our own community. And I see this continuing as a contract for the current time in that same flexibility for us in terms of being able to just, say, well, that sounded like something we really didn't need, but now we do, so,
Makes sense.
Okay, further comments? Okay, I have a motion on the floor with a second to approve the proposed communication specialist service agreement with the school district with Tracy Habashaleen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, D is gone. E, Rivercrest Design Development. Mary?
We are on to Rivercrest Design, and we just met with our architects, Hoffman, representatives from Hoffman this afternoon, and looking at that design continuing to progress. You each received a design development notebook with where we had been, and we have progressed past this, but we do need your approval for this design development. We are very pleased with the progress we're making. We have, if you've been by the site, there is activity. They have taken down trees and also been very selective about which trees came down and trying to keep those at a minimum. Those are being chipped, and we will be using those in an environmental way. So we are looking at how do we continue to be environmentally friendly and respect our environment as we move forward. The site has been cleared, ground moving has started, they're doing some more soil testing, and we're proceeding. Dick, do you have any comments that you would like to
Just
make?
really two comments. First of all, we did come out of the meeting this afternoon. Current time still on budget and right on schedule. We've got a lot of work to do, and second comment, it really is what we're being asked to approve tonight is really the footprint of the building, the configuration of the building. We're not talking about color schemes, we're not talking color of the brick, we're not talking about interior finishes. It's really to allow the architect to go to construction documents based on the configuration that we've had presented to us. And I'm comfortable where we are, and we've been through this at the committee level many times, and this is a wonderful plan, and I think we're in a position this evening to take it to or approve the development of construction documents.
Just one comment that you might be interested in. A team from the district attended a model schools conference in Washington, D.C. in the last few days, and we attended an architect team's presentation that was supposed to come in and align program, form and function, basically, but program being delivered in a state-of-the-art building. And we walked out of that session, and our conclusion was we have the right architects and they should be presenting because this group has much to learn. And those are the ones that we're presenting and selected to do that. So we are very pleased in the district with the design. We're at a point, as Dick talked about, that it's really, we can't make any significant changes at this point to really move forward without delaying the project.
I think just a quick comment that the floor plan that you see in front of you, that's really the floor plan that we're being asked to approve this evening for construction documents. Any significant changes at this point, i.e. locating the configuration of the kitchen, trying to realign classrooms, realigning the location or placement of the media center, those would present a significant delay in going to construction documents.
Dick, I have a question. There's a committee that includes teachers and parents and such who have looked at these schematics?
Initially, yes. Since that time, no. It has been a committee, really pretty much a day-to-day management of this project, of this building. Principal Pat Hodges, Jim Staskell, Tim Erickson, Mary, myself.
Well, let me ask, since I don't work in a kitchen,
Okay.
I really have to believe that I know less about what makes an effective kitchen than somebody who works in the kitchen.
Okay.
So to what extent do we know that the layout of the kitchen is good for the people who work there, or where the music department is located is good for the people who work there?
Fair question, absolutely. Tim, you want to take that?
If you want to talk specifically about food service or kitchen in the new elementary, Hoffman does contract with a company by the name of, I want to say it's Bolter, but they're specialists. That's what they do, is they design commercial food preparation areas. And in that design, which that part of it is not final yet, our Joan Allen, our child nutrition coordinator, and her staff and myself have had a chance to review about 3 different options there. And so what our charge is now is to decide on what that final design will be. But I think it's a good process. They've got a very, very experienced design firm that has a lot of experience with the food preparation.
Okay, so with the food preparation area, you're assuring me that our own people who are going to work in that area or who would work in an area like that in our district have had an opportunity to have input. Can you also assure me that other people in other areas of the building have had similar opportunity to say that this would work or not?
And I can, and Mary probably wants to add too, but the
Just jump in
architects
with it
and
over
Dick,
here.
the architects have gone through interviews with employees fairly extensively, with quite a few employees at the very beginning of this, and showing them the different designs and responding to their questions and concerns and coming back with revisions and changes. So, but
There's essentially been 2 phases. One was first to get input into the design before it started.
Right.
And then secondly, so they met with various staff members representing primary teachers, intermediate teachers, music teachers, Phi Ed, art, and so forth. So special ed teachers, ELL, really went through every kind of staff member that was going to work in the building and in a particular space. And so they got that first, and then we have had additional feedback based on here's the design and what do you think?
Great. The first part I knew we had done. It was the second part that I didn't know whether it had actually taken place. And I feel better that I know it has. That's, I think, a positive thing and a necessary thing.
Okay.
So, okay.
More than a fair question. Any other questions or comments, Brian or Tom?
Nope.
All right. Cindy, any other comments?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm prepared to entertain a motion.
Mr. President. Thank you. I move to approve the Rivercrest Design Development document as presented in our 3-ring binders.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bell to approve going to construction documents. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tom. Any discussion?
If I third, that means you're the only one left to
Yeah,
vote.
the only one left. All right, no other discussion, then I'll move the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Number F, contract for design and construction of County Highway F improvements. And again, this is related to the Rivercrest Elementary. And Tim?
Before you, and that's item 9F, and that's a loose leaf, not in the bound book. It's a single-page document. I'll let you all get a chance to get that out. This agreement relates to design, engineering design, and construction by the St. Croix County Highway Forces of the County Trunk Highway F as it runs past the new school, and that would be turning lanes, bypass lanes, et cetera. We've worked with the county, Highway Commissioner Tim Ramberg, and came up with an agreement. And essentially, it works very well for both parties, for the school district and St. Croix County Highway, because they also had some needs in the design. If you remember, the school district wanted to do some safety enhancements with the bypass and turn lanes. The county also has some needs to try and make the roadway width along F more consistent rather than what they have now as hourglass shapes up and down the roadway. So we've entered into this cost-sharing arrangement with them, and our share is capped at $100,000, which is in our design budget for a roadway. And like I say, the county is providing complete services. That would be design, engineering, and also the construction of the roadway. And then we also agree to provide some right-of-way to get this accomplished. So I just want to thank Commissioner Ramberg and the Highway Committee for working with the school district to come up with this agreement.
Tim, am I to understand that the St. Croix County is also doing the construction, so they'll do with their own crews, their own equipment?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they're actually, if I remember correctly, St. Croix County, in terms of highway construction, as far as counties in Wisconsin are concerned, probably do the most paving with their own forces compared to other counties in Wisconsin. They do a lot of road work.
Okay, questions from the board members?
Is it becoming a 3-lane then, or with a turning lane in the middle, or can you describe it?
If I hope I get this all right, but I believe it's actually, it can be a total of 4. Oh, here we go. Do we have a picture there? Not in here. Oh, okay. Sorry. And again, I don't want to preempt because their engineering portion of it, they need to finish. So, but it will be 4 lanes in some areas, as I think the intent is to widen that area out a little bit more. And then again, so that their goal was to reduce the number of hourglass configurations they've got along County Trunk F.
So essentially, you'd have southbound, you'd have a left-hand turn lane, and then a passing lane.
Yes, right.
And then northbound on County Road F, you'd have a through lane and then a right-hand lane for deceleration.
Right. Yeah, they'll also be doing some improvements on the YMCA side. So they'll be adding turn lane to their entrance. And so they're also working with the YMCA too.
And again, what's the length of this project in terms of at what point does it start and finishes it on County Road F?
I don't have the exact delineation points, but it would be somewhere where our property begins if you go down, and I don't remember the name of the roadway.
Cooley Trail.
Well, yeah, if you start at Cooley Trail and then it continues quite, and I don't want to speak to the feet because I don't know exactly how long they're going to design that, but they design according to state standards. They have specifications that they have to follow, and usually state DOT standards.
And the timeline for this project, will the road construction be complete before the fall opening of the new school?
Yes, what they'd like to do at this point, they're looking at starting sometime this fall on that road construction.
Okay, other questions? I'll entertain a motion for the agreement between Hudson School District and St. Croix County for construction on County Trunk F.
I move that we accept the project agreement between the Hudson School District and St. Croix County for construction, intersection, and access of whatever CTH F,
County Trunk
Highway F, relating to the new Hudson Elementary School along County Highway F and Cooley Trail.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then G, process to fill board member vacancy created by the resignation of Tracy Havashaleen. Mary, you want to take and kind of talk about the process to fill that vacancy?
Well, President Dan Chernahoy and I met and
Thank you.
also conferred with our attorney about what we needed to do in relationship to filling this vacancy. And essentially, the board has the authority to appoint a candidate to fill the vacancy and can choose what that process is to do that. The individual that is selected fills the vacancy until the next April school board election, and then the remaining time on that seat is part of that process of that election. So next April, we have 2 seats that are 3-year terms, and then there would be 1 additional seat that is a 1-year term. And the candidate that came in 3rd place would then fill that 1-year term. The following year, it would go back to being a 3-year term, elected term seat. And so I did some research, and with Diane's help, looking at what had been done and what process had been used in the past. And basically, this is a little modification of that process, but basically most of one or more of the process, because there have been multiple times in the past that school board members have been appointed. So essentially, this starts with a notice to the community of the vacancy in the Hudson Star Observer and also on our website, and you can see the dates starting with July, July 18th, and then having a deadline for applications by August 3rd at 5 p.m. And then those applications, as you can see, are in the packet or the suggested format for. There are some questions that the candidates must complete for you to consider. And if you're interested in changing any of those questions or adding questions to that, that could occur as well. They would complete that, turn it in on time. We would give you copies of those to consider prior to the board meeting, and then at your next April 14th board meeting, it might not be the next board meeting, at 6:30, you would appoint the next person to fill that vacancy. August 14th. Did I say April? Ooh, okay, that's these glasses and my.
Can I suggest a simplification?
Certainly.
Tracy was elected at a time during a part of our election, or our board lifespan, when 3 candidates are up for re-election. And it seems to me that it's an unnecessary complication to appoint somebody until the April election and then elect somebody for 1 year, just so that they can stay on that schedule. Maybe what we can do is appoint someone until April, and then 3 people can be up for reelection. The 3 seats can be open for each of the 3-year terms.
We can't change the April election. The board doesn't have the authority to do that.
To change it in what way?
Well, maybe I didn't understand, Cindy.
What's the difference whether we have 3 candidates up, 3 seats open for election or reelection in this coming April versus the one after that?
Well, the seats, and I'm assuming there's a statute, and how the district came to be. As you know, we have 2 seats up on certain years in April, and
Right.
then we have 3 seats on another year. So 2, 2, and 3.
Right.
And we can't change that order.
Why not?
I have no information about that. It's something I could look into. Certainly when I did confer with our attorney, this is how he explained it and said this is the process. And that there would be 2 seats up this next time, which is the normal order, 2 this next April in 2008. I said that right, April, right? And then
But how do we know that we can't change it?
Nancy, do you have?
The Board Policy 7300
Thank you.
is part of your board package.
That's right.
And page 33 does address filling vacancies and does reference 2 statutes, 120.06 parent 4 and 120.42 parent 2. That's where the process comes from. That's written into the policy. Don't have the statute book here to, read literally to you, but there would be statutory foundation for the way the vacancies would be filled.
The one thing that this does do, at least it keeps it in the sequence of elections in terms of the number of board candidates that are elected. It doesn't take us out of that sequence. Now, whether that's good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent, at least it keeps us on that sequence. And I don't know how state statute allows us to change that if it does. I mean, maybe within our articles of incorporation as a school district. I don't know if that addresses that or if we address it by policy.
But the only thing we have to talk about tonight, or do tonight, is approve the process for appointing someone to serve until April.
Correct, and I appreciate Nancy reminding me about this. We put this together some time ago, and my conversation about this was our wording here reflects the statute, so we don't have that opportunity to really change the election in April and what that looks like. You don't
Okay.
have the authority.
Well, I'm going to look at the statute anyway.
That's fine.
I want to know that we have to be so complex. I mean, I want to know that if we're going to do this complex thing and have the same seat be reelected or reappointed every April for the next 2 or 3 years, I think I'd like to know for a fact that we don't have any other option.
We'll be
So
happy to get that
Oh, yes.
That'll
for
be
you
great.
I'll
and
get it
communicate
and
that.
I'll send it to you.
That'll be
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think, Cindy, that's a separate issue that we can address separate from what we're looking at tonight. I think really what we're doing tonight is probably 2 things. One is approving, or at least concurring with the application. And then the second thing, which we probably should approve, is really the application process to fill that vacancy that currently is on the board.
Okay.
Any other comments or discussion on that, Tom or Brian?
No. Nope.
Okay. Why don't we, what I'll do then is I'll entertain a motion to the effect of approving the process as outlined.
On page 29?
I've got page 28. And then have that motion also include approval of the application as indicated on pages 29 and 30 of your packet.
Mr. President, I would move the approval of the process as indicated on page 28, as well as the application form that's located on page 29 and 30 in our packets.
Okay, motion by Tom to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Brian. Discussion? Okay, I'll move the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item 10, for those folks in the crowd following on their agenda, we're item number 10. And Nancy, board committees, advisory council reports.
Okay. Chairperson Mark Kaiserschott is not here this evening, so I'll just generally address the meeting, and other members of the committee can add. We did meet on June 28th, and during the first part of the meeting, we did engage in an update on the 2007-08 staff hiring. Right now, and I did communicate at that time that we've determined a handful of support staff vacancies, and in fact, those interviews, some of them are beginning this week. We do have 2 late resignations of teachers. One is middle school Spanish, the other AP psychology, social studies at the high school. So we're proceeding to attempt to fill them, but other teacher positions have been filled. We talked about the North Hudson principal vacancy. That posting ends tomorrow. There are applications, and that process is proceeding. We also talked about the HR director selection process, and that process is continuing. We then adjourned to closed session and talked about primarily bargaining with the custodians and the teachers. And then we reconvened into open session. Do other members of the committee, board members or administrators want to
Brian, you're
mention
on.
anything?
Nothing else to add.
Okay.
I think you're the only member on the personnel committee.
Well,
I mean, in attendance.
In attendance.
Right. Okay, questions, comments of Nancy? Okay, thank you, Nancy. Item 11, superintendent's report, open enrollment appeals.
As you will remember, last year, the Finance Committee, I believe, took up the conversation around open enrollment, knowing that with our enrollment throughout the district and the capacities of our buildings, that we needed to be concerned and be deliberate about those decisions that we were going to have to make, knowing that the open enrollment application period was in February. So in anticipation of that, the committee discussed how to look at open enrollment, what we should considered our policy as well, and the guidelines in our policy for decision making, as well as the statutes, and gave us a process, not a process, but a priority order of those applications, and really gave first preference into the district of those students who had applied, who had siblings in the district, and also those who had been in the district previously, so that students who were new to the district and asking to come in on open enrollment, because there was not room in the district to serve our own students and be under capacity numbers, we denied a number of requests differently this year, and we talked about that at the board level as well. And as a result of a couple of those, 2 of those specifically, denials, the parents have the opportunity to appeal that to the Department of Public Instruction, and did so, and those denials were overturned. So we do have to welcome those students into our district based on that. There's one other process that Nancy, I know, is going to talk about, and then talk a little bit more specifically about the decision we've received from the state, so that if you have any questions about that, we can cover those.
This is the first time in my memory that the Hudson School District has received an appeal of a denial of open enrollment. So it's the first time we've had an opportunity to hear from the Department of Public Instruction relative to their own interpretation of the law. And we do have an opportunity ourselves to appeal their decision to circuit court, but that would incur legal fees for sure, and time as well. And we recommended earlier that we not do that, but that we learn from the results of this appeal. Now, each of them were slightly different, and one would suggest a policy change. The department does not differentiate between students who are already here under open enrollment, who are already here under tuition waivers. And they view that as arbitrary on our part, differentiating the two. And so that will require us to look further at how our policy is written, and certainly on how we interpret that. And we wouldn't have known that, and the board wouldn't have known that ahead of time. The other appeal was on behalf of a student who's not here yet, who would enter kindergarten. And in that case, they appear to find us, again, arbitrary, based on the fact that prior to giving priority to this other population of already open enrolled students, we did not indicate that space was not available because we entertained their continuing enrollment. And so it appears that application of priority wouldn't apply to students who are not here yet either. In both cases, the parents of these students, non-residents, applied for Holton. Had they applied to other schools, it would have been more problematic for us. We're still, of course, transferring our own resident students out of their neighborhood schools to other schools in order to balance the enrollments and maintain the class size guidelines. And we fully expect Holton to increase also, and for those class size guidelines perhaps to be challenged. But it isn't as problematic for us that they applied to Holton. So we will learn. We'll learn from this. We'll interpret what they've written to us, and we'll make some changes in our policy and procedure. With the opening of the new school, perhaps, there'll be, at least for a little while, some space available. But as we become more challenged at the secondary level, and we're already challenged at the secondary level, we're going to run into this again. So we'll learn from it, and we'll make some changes.
Nancy, one term that you use that I'm not familiar with is tuition waiver. Mm-hmm. Could you explain that?
These are students who would be the general application of it. They lived here at one time, but moved out of the district during the school year, either after the third Friday in September count or after the count that we do in membership in January, and some of them even during the summer. Those that were here during the school year and moved out are really entitled to finish the year with a tuition waiver, and there's a process, there's a form that they complete and submit to the superintendent's office, so they're entitled to finish the year. If they were here for both counts, they would be entitled to another year of tuition waiver, and they have to do their own transportation. Beyond that, they're not entitled to continue in the school district. So these were the open enrollment are students who never lived here. The tuition waivers are students who lived here at one time.
Okay.
And we have not, in my recent memory, allowed students to come in outside of open enrollment and pay us to come here because we've not had room in my recent memory.
Nancy, clarification on open enrollment. Those students could have lived here at one time, but no longer qualify for a tuition waiver.
That's true. Some of them, yeah, the majority didn't. But that's another alternative they have, is to exhaust the tuition waiver process and then apply for open enrollment. Mm-hmm.
It gets complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Is it appropriate to name the school district that they, I don't want to know names as far as students, that wouldn't be appropriate, but where are the two students going into Holton, where are they coming from? Is that appropriate?
I really don't have that in front of me, but they would be close. They would be adjacent to us. Neighboring, and
okay.
that's generally true of the people that apply as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Questions? Tom, at all? Anything?
No. We'll be going back and discussing this in committee again.
Right,
Yeah,
right. And
policy.
certainly the policy committee will need to review this as well.
So it's certainly, based on those two decisions, it doesn't sound like there was any technical flaw.
There wasn't.
In the process,
we
it
were found, I mean, we met all the timelines.
Yeah.
We followed all of the procedures identified in the statutes. And we had documentation and submitted, if you can recall, what you received earlier, submitted a whole lot of documentation relative to our growth, class size, decisions the board had made. I wasn't certain whether we would prevail or not because the law is written really to favor parents who want to choose other districts, and I just been aware from other districts that much of the time, I'm not sure how often, but much of the time DPI does rule in favor of the parents.
Well, let's just take that as a positive and
Yep.
say that Holton's a great school and great school district,
And welcome.
and yeah, welcome, and
Welcome.
have a good first day of school and a good school year. Okay. Any citizen requests to speak to the board? Steve? Oh, come on up. Come on up. Right here, Steve.
I just have
We didn't wake you up, did we?
Steve Hermson, 813 Harborview Road. I'm sorry, what did you say?
We didn't wake you up back there, did we?
But Steve, for our record keeping, will you fill out a form anyway when you're done?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Two questions. One, on the noticing on the contract that you're entering into with Tracy, have you consulted your attorney on that? I seem to recall when doing my research on conflict of interest that an elected person is not eligible to enter into a contract for a period of 1 year after leaving that elected position. And I need to go back and check that. That's just something I recall. So that's why I was just curious. If you had already checked that, then that's over with.
We have conferred, and that was not something that was identified for us. The process was that the board member could not apply while they were sitting on the board.
Oh, certainly.
And we'll check it again just in case, based on your comments, because certainly there is no intent by the administration or the board to do anything inappropriate.
No, I'm just making the comment that it's just something I recall. I haven't got anything to point to, but I'll look myself.
It is our
but-
understanding that Tracy did do exactly what she needed to do based on resigning first, had not applied for the position, then applied for the position, and was like any other candidate who applied for the position.
Yep, well, I'm just,
But let's be sure.
yep.
Absolutely. We'll check that out.
What's your question, second question, Steve?
Pardon?
What's your second question?
Second question was for Sandy. One thing that I had noticed, and from a casual observer, reading the paper, and then coming to these board meetings and looking at this, we had noticed last year, I believe it was for the graduating class, for instance, of 2006. No, 7 or 5, I'm sorry, last year's graduating class. Anyway, that we tallied that up, and I thought it was like 80% of the graduating class was listed in the paper as honor roll or high honor roll. We thought, now that's pretty good. But it tends to jive a little bit with the wiki scores that we've got here. How does it come about that you can, and I realize you're saying that we don't have grade 12 scores. So one question would be is why don't they carry that? Is that just a program that says it stops at grade 10?
Right. The federal law, the No Child Left Behind, requires the testing just once in grades 9 through 12, and Wisconsin has chosen grade 10.
Okay. And, well, I was just curious, from a standpoint, is it possible that our level needed to reach a honor roll status may conflict with what the wiki testing shows? In other words, let's use grade 10,
Yeah.
and I sorry, I should have had that page quick. Let's just say,
Yeah, and one point would be, obviously, the two areas tested are reading and math. Your GPA for honor roll would be based on all courses taken.
True.
So it would be including your social studies, your choir and band, your technology, your business courses. It's based on all the courses that you complete, not just the
true,
reading
but
and
to
math
make honor roll,
courses.
don't you need a B average?
Correct.
High honor is an A average, I believe, which will allow you A's except with one B.
Right.
And I think regular honor roll as a B average will allow one C, if I think, I could be wrong on
Yeah.
that. But
And I don't know the details either.
Oh.
So.
well, I guess the only observation was we have at 60-some percent, and I'm sorry, I'm not seeing this. Well, here, at 80%, 85, somewhere under 90,
Being proficient.
being for proficient and advanced. I would tend to think that for a B average or a high honor roll group, taking the average of the class, if they were honor roll students, wouldn't that rank as advanced? That would, if you had 80% of your class ranking as honor roll, I would think that would tell me I should have everybody in
80%.
advanced or very high. You see where I'm going here?
Yeah. That you're kind of looking at the percentage here on the test is lower than the percentage you are on the honor roll.
Correct.
And so what's that, is there a reason for the discrepancy?
Right, that's what, I guess, is that something that's looked at, or is it an observation, maybe nobody else is seeing it, I don't know, but it's from
No.
standing on
And
the
I can only
outside.
say I'm aware that at the high school, they are just looking at that whole piece of GPA. It's not just Hudson, it's kind of nationally as far as grade point average and the whole issue of inflated grades and what's going on. And I do know that Principal Lucas and his staff are looking at just the whole piece of what percentage of students are earning A's and B's and C's and D's.
Sure.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I missed what you said, and I guess I had the same, Mr. Hermanson is raising the question for me. Okay, how do we know that we don't have widespread grade inflation across the curriculum?
It would be just more that you'd have to have those discussions. We'd have to talk about how are students in we're both English teachers. Tim and I are both English teachers. What does it take to get an A, a B, a C in his class versus mine? I mean, it's all getting back to that collaboration discussion that the team kind of were looking at what are our standards, what are our learning targets, what are we doing to determine what those grades are. And that's part of what's happening now as we move into more professional learning discussions at the
Can't we also know by how?
Cindy, let me just, Steve, you've had the floor here for 5 minutes.
And I'm done. I'm sorry.
And I want to be
Thank you.
consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, grab a seat, and then we'll continue.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's continue the dialogue, if appropriate.
Can we know that by our graduates' average SAT and ACT scores? Can that help us know whether our students are performing at who
At
have a
that
high
high
grade point
level.
average, have also a high performance on a nationalized standard college entrance exam?
Correct.
And what do we know about our students' ACT scores?
I don't have numbers in front of me tonight, but we do have, I recall what we shared when they came out in like May, that we had a high percentage of our students performing very, very strong on the ACT.
And that was what I recall too, that our students who are taking national exams for college entrance do very well. And I guess I would have to go back and look at the exact numbers again too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that suggests to me from the standpoint of looking at grade inflation that's an indicator that we're not necessarily inflating those high grade point averages. We might want to do the analysis with numbers.
Right. And then I just kind of keep hearing too that we've kind of got a little bit apples and oranges. I mean, all of them are indicators. We just have to watch how we're comparing a WKCE to GPA to ACT and what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think we need to be real careful when you start talking different tests and different percentiles and trying to correlate and tie them together. I get a little skittish when we start doing that. I think that they're going to have to stand on their own merit.
But I think a grade inflation question is a fair question for a
Fair
district.
question. Fair
And I
question.
think that
Yeah.
we should probably at some point, I know that the agendas for the next, I don't know how many meetings are already filling up, but it would be nice to see some indication of how our graduates' GPAs correlate or don't correlate with
Their performance.
some other
measure.
more independent measures of their ability. That would be a great thing to know. I mean, I know that we look at it, but to be purposeful about answering that question would be interesting to me.
It would be interesting, and it's also interesting, the research, trying to find an accurate measure that we can use. I believe it was Harvard, but I'm not positive of the university, that did a study at some point about the accuracy of ACT and SAT scores, and it may only have been one of those, on students' performance in college. And something like it was your height was a better indicator of your performance in college, your freshman year, as opposed to those test results. Sometimes we are not comparing the same things when we sometimes think they are, and those assumptions are often made.
But comparing it to the ability of students with similar grade point averages taking the same test all over the country is a different kind of question than college success. It's a very academic domain, and it's not as random. There aren't as many intervening factors as there are in a student's first year of college. So,
Okay. We need to go into a closed session this evening, and we'll adjourn to a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 19.85, subparagraph 1, parents or subparents E, for the purpose of discussion of bargaining of the custodians and teachers' contracts. And I'll take a roll call vote to go into a closed session. And Brian, I'll start with you.
Holland, aye.
Menick, aye.
Crimmins, aye.
Okay, motion carries to go into closed session.
And will we return to open session in the other location?
Yes.